I started to do this dream voice process in 1996, and then it started to be so phenomenal in terms of how accurately it predicted the future that I had to keep going. I wasn't going to stop. It's like, wow, some kind of angelic consciousness is talking to me. It's clearly not me. It clearly has its own agenda. It clearly has its own personality. It's nagging me all the time about how much I worry. It says, you really don't have anything to worry about. It was really on my case about diet. It did not like a lot of the food that I was eating, and it started asking me to change my diet, which I did. And so I wanted to get like a doctorate in psychology, and then these beings basically say, look, we are much better than the PhD because we're training you ourselves, and hardly anybody on earth gets this. Hardly anybody on earth gets to be trained directly by us in their own personal issues like this. Well, I'd already been having dreams and writing them down every morning for 4 years when I started doing the dream voice, or 3 years when I started doing the dream voice. So it was a big, big deal. And it became a very personal relationship. I would have this stack of cassettes, as I said, that was like over a month old. I would sit down, I'd start transcribing something that could have been 5 weeks ago. And as soon as I start transcribing, it's describing something that had just happened to me right before I sat down. And there were hundreds and hundreds of these. In fact, this was the norm, not the exception. As I said last week, one of the most striking examples was my girlfriend at the time comes home, says that a guy had showed her a picture of a building where the top floor was built to look like a flying saucer. I go back, I hit play, and the very next thing that was happening was I was describing a building where the top floor looked like a flying saucer in a dream that I had. And then I said, come back, and I played it for her, and we're both looking at each other, hair standing up on our arms. Holy crap. So this is happening over and over and over and over, and I'm also getting very detailed guidance where the bottom line was, you are protected, we will always be taking care of you, you don't have to worry, please don't be so afraid. The main thing they always were working on me about was anxiety and diet, those two things. Don't be afraid, we've got it covered, and please, please eat better quality food because we are helpless if you don't eat the right kind of food. And they were trying to tell me back in the 1990s that food was actually weaponized and that certain types of food in today's world will greatly diminish your health. And so if you think that these folks who are the usual suspects have just now gotten the idea to introduce poisons into our environment, they've been spiking cigarettes since God knows when. Do not smoke cigarettes at all. Because even in the 1970s, Dr. Peterson described going and applying for a job after having worked for various three-letter agencies. And when he got to the interview, they told him that his job was going to be to threaten or murder anyone who stands up to big tobacco. This was in the 1970s. And then Pete's response was, if I ever see you again, it'll be to put a bullet between your eyes. Don't ever call me. And he walks out. And that was it. He didn't take the job. So he begins to tell me that, for example, in 1996, there was a Christian broadcast. I think he said it was on TBN, Trinity Broadcast Network, and I think it was called the Power Hour. He said the year was 1996. Hopefully some of you somewhere can find this and dig it up. But he told me that in this 1996 show, there were 6 whistleblowers from an agricultural conglomerate called ADM, or Archer Daniels Midland, which is one of the big food producers. And in this tell-all confessional, these 6 people came forward and said that they had been tasked to build wheat into a weapon system that kills people. And that the way they designed it, their instructions were not to get an instant kill, but that they wanted to tailor, whether it's cigarettes or whether it's certain ingredients in the food supply, they wanted to tailor it so that people would live and be productive workers until the age of 55, at which time they would very rapidly die, so as not to be a burden on Social Security. Yeah. I wasn't happy when I heard this. If you can find that radio show, I love you. Please find the radio show and please send it to me. I will do anything to find this show, okay? If you can find it, you're my best friend. I'm just going to say that right now. I've been talking about this for years. Nobody's ever dug it up. But I think if you go back to Power Hour 1996 and you look for whistleblower or ADM or whatever, you might find it. I don't know. Hopefully you can find it. Somebody please find it. And now, more recently, we got Dr. William Davis, who's written the book called Wheat Belly. And the book Wheat Belly says if you eat wheat, you're going to get fat. Now, why is that? Well, they designed it that way. How did they design it that way? According to Dr. William Davis, there is a weird synthetic protein that has been added to wheat called gliadin. And when you eat this protein, your thyroid mistakes it for thyroid hormone. There's T1, T2, T3, T4. Those are your 4 types of thyroid hormone. Your thyroid starts uptaking gliadin instead of thyroid hormone. If your thyroid can't take in thyroid hormone, then you have no energy. You are depressed. You are miserable. Your brain doesn't work very well. You can't think very well. And you are lethargic and you want to eat more to get energy. So it actually encourages you to keep eating because your thyroid is taking up the thyroid hormone, but it's not getting what it needs. So you get fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter, just like my father would say, you're getting fatter and fatter, boy. Well, screw that. Just get rid of wheat. Don't ever eat wheat. Please, God, don't ever, 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 ever eat it. You cannot eat wheat, period. I'm sorry. And that rules out so much stuff that you love. Pastries, donuts, cake, bread, sandwiches, burgers. It's gone. The reason I'm bringing this up is that in the time loop, they totally tell you you're going to have to clean up your diet. The other one, if there's only 2 things that you absolutely do, avoid wheat and avoid all forms of refined sugar. Now, you can get sweets still. You can get things from the health food store that are pretty good. But in general, you kind of want to avoid those sweeteners entirely. But especially anything that is a normal, if it's high fructose corn syrup, if it just says sugar, even actually agave nectar is really not very good because that's a refined sugar product as well. But what these readings are going to say, now I didn't get this from Pete, but what these readings are going to say is that the sugar is poison too. And in fact, I noticed this when I was doing the dream work and the readings. If I ate sugar, I would not remember my dream the next day. And there was even one point when I had already started to kind of figure this out, and I was working with a developmentally disabled. I'm like, yeah, if I eat anything, it's going to be bad. But this one day, somebody went to Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, I'm just being honest. This is 1996. Please forgive me, okay? And the one donut that I always loved the most was that little brown one, the black chocolate donut with the hole in it. It's got the, that black donut, man, it was the best one. There's one of those. I don't care about the strawberries or the pink this or that or the cherry jelly squirting out of the damn thing. No. I want that black one. So I just said, I'm just going to test this out and see if I can remember my dreams tomorrow. And I'm not going to eat the whole thing. I'm just going to break off a piece. So I break off a piece of the donut. I'm walking and the door hits me right in the forehead. Right as I'm biting into the frickin' donut. So the beings are doing this kind of stuff too. They're setting me up with these synchronicities, and then after I hit my head, they're like, see, we told you we don't want you to eat sugar. Well, that's kind of a mean way to tell me, it hurt. I got a bruise on my head. Well, it's very, very important that you don't eat sugar. Then